Hello everyone, it is that time of the year again where we have our first update of the 5 or 6 that we're going to do every year. It's kind of strange for me. I can't believe that this is just the first one of the year. I don't know about how the beginning of your year has gone, but I seem to exist in this kind of weird AI parallax of time where the last 2 months have seemed like about 6 months of time. And maybe that is because there's a new AI announcement every single week that just makes 2 months seem like it's already been 6 months. But I've looked forward to this update for months now. This is a topic that we've been dealing with and working on inside of Future Point of View since early last year. And so I'm excited to talk about it as an update. I hope that this is something that I will get all of you to think differently about the role of digital skills right now in an organization and what we need to be doing about those. I have set this up where I open up with 3 problems. And so I want to describe the 3 problems to you. So the first problem is this skills gap that we are starting to have. Now, we've had this skills gap forever. I just think that what's happening now is a widening of the gap between what people could be doing with the technology in their organizations and what they are doing. And we're starting to see a lot of research come out on this. This was one study that we found quite interesting because it was an awfully large study, right? It was around 4,000 executives. These are all larger organizations, by the way. So that'll make sense when I tell you the punchline of this thing. But the punchline, how much money the organizations are losing per week, 1.14 million, that they're losing per week in productivity because of the inability to use digital tools effectively. Now again, these are big organizations, but we're starting to see more and more research. There's some Google research that we saw this morning, same kind of thing. A massive loss in productivity, ergo profits, because you have a lot of people that work for you who cannot use the tools you already have, much less any new tools. So if I were to show it to you kind of graphically, think about it this way. If you think about digital potential, right, the potential to use digital tools really, really well. What's happening is our IT capabilities continue to grow. You know, again, in this AI era, growing even faster than we've ever seen before. So the sheer power that technology has keeps growing. But if you look at digital IQ, right, the ability of our people to actually use these tools, they're not keeping up. And this is creating up here what is a giant gap, right, between people's digital IQ and the actual capabilities. Now, I'm not talking about what's possible as far as your overall capabilities. I'm talking about what you already own, the licenses you're already paying for, right, that people cannot use. We always talk about like Power BI and Power Automate from Microsoft are the poster child. But now it's not just those two, it's also AI as well. Tools that you have that in a lot of cases are free or you're paying for, but people aren't using them. Now, the way I would like for you to think about this is it's a tax. It's a tax on what's going on at your organization, right? It's a skills gap tax. In other words, it's money that you are paying or you are leaving on the table because people can't use the tools you already have. And again, I want to reiterate, AI is making this worse, but this was a problem before AI came along. So we had this skills gap years ago. In fact, I remember probably about 5-6 years ago, we started actually doing assessments of our clients, and we were asking people, what percentage of the tools that you already own are you using? And the number that we typically came out with was around 40%. 40% of the capabilities you already had. So this is problem 1, right? We have a skills gap issue, which is a tax on the organization. All right, let's look at the AI component. And I wanted to try to show this to you so you understand the scope of what's going to happen with the digital skills gap when we're talking about AI. To do this, I need to explain the concept of mind. All right. So the human mind, right, which sits on top of the brain. The brain is the physical substrate, right? But the mind is the manifestation of the brain. Just like if I were to give you an analogy, your body is like a machine. When you play sports, the sports that you play, what you do with your body is a manifestation of the machine that is your body. It's the same thing with mind and brain. The mind is not the brain. Those are two different things. You can have a brain with no mind. All right? If you think about a spectrum of what's going on with our mind and with technology, if we start all the way over on the humology scale at an H5, you have the human mind with no tools, right? And so all these pictures, they're AI created, but I asked for, hey, just give me a backpacker in the mountains and the woods, right? This person's not writing anything down. She has no tools. She just has her mind to be able to do computation, right? Or to be able to do anything that she's going to do. Now, if we go over just a little bit on the humology scale, you have mind and tools. And I know you might not think that, wow, these are part of the mind, but they are. Anytime you use a calculator or you write things down, or this is actually an AI's version of an old Rolodex, which is, by the way, funny to me. If any of you are my age, right, and you actually know what the Rolodex looked like, that's not what it looks like, but that's what the AI thinks the Rolodex looks like. But my point is, when we wrote things down, when we had a Rolodex, when we kept information in writing, that was the mind plus the tools. And so many people argue that was the first time we extended the mind to be able to store knowledge, right, or store memory in something outside of our mind. Now, the next stage, you all know well, the outboard mind, right? The outboard mind is the mobile device, right? We've talked about it for years being the outboard brain, but I'm just going to say it's more correctly to say the outboard mind. Today, your mind is a combination of what is exhibited from your brain and then what you have loaded in your mobile device. It stores memory for you. It helps make some decisions for you. It gives you a connection to massive amounts of other knowledge. And so we have an outboard mind. That's the stage we're in today. We might say that's an H1 on the humology scale. But where we are moving quickly is what's called the hybrid mind. The hybrid mind is the combination of AI and your human mind. So in other words, the organic mind, the synthetic mind. And then if we go all the way to the other end of the spectrum, we have the full synthetic mind, right? We just have an AI, there's no human mind involved at all. And the reason that I want you to understand this concept of mind is today we are shifting from the outboard mind to the hybrid mind. And that is a massive shift. Massive. I want you to just think about that for a second. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to be quiet for just a second because I really want you to contemplate what it means to move from a mobile device that just stored memory for us or stored actions or allowed us to take actions to moving to a world where we have AI agents that do work on our behalf. We combine our mind with our AI tools to be able to do creativity or to develop new ideas, right? This is not a small leap going from the outboard mind to the hybrid mind. And it will create a pretty dangerous skills gap for organizations for the next, I would say, 5 years. The reason I say it's a dangerous skills gap, the amount of power that a person has when they can create the hybrid mind, the integration of a human mind and a synthetic mind, right, versus somebody who cannot do that, that gap is going to be huge. And so that's a bit why this update, right, it's so important for us to talk about this issue now. So that's problem one. We have a growing skills gap, and now we've added AI onto it, which is going to amplify the skills gap. All right, problem two, how we have developed digital IQ. So there's some research that I looked at a while back that said when a new employee starts at an organization, it takes up to 6 months for them to even learn what the software is that is available at the organization. Like, to even understand what the digital backbone is and what's available for them to use, 6 months in most cases, right? Then let's amplify it with, when it comes to how do we educate on digital skills, there's 3 ways, none of which are working very well. I mean, the first one is just the traditional kinds of training, whether that's in-person training where we have somebody stand up and they are the jug and you are the mug and they're pouring their digital wisdom into you, right? Or they're self-learning. You just go out on your own and figure out how to take a course or watch a YouTube video. And then there's the peer-to-peer, right? You just have somebody at the organization that just sits down with you and they just show you how to do things on the screen. None of these is enough today to get across what we need to teach as far as digital skills. And so this is a problem too, is we just do not have good education systems inside of organizations to get across the level of digital IQ that we need to get across. Then, if we look at the third problem, it's motivation. And there's 4 things I'd point out around motivation. Most organizations, they do not have really any financial incentives, certainly not stated, for somebody who is an absolute digital centaur, right? A highly evolved human being with highly evolved technology skills, and then somebody who's not. So you can have 2 people that are doing the same job and they are on the same pay scale, but one of them has fantastic use of technology tools and one of them doesn't. Now, maybe we informally might figure out how to pay the person that has better technology skills more, but in most cases we don't. We don't have any process for how we pay more for people that have skills. And if you step back and think about it, this doesn't make any sense because the person that has higher level skills is probably much more efficient at what they do, probably making better decisions. All right, second thing, leaders have not really felt comfortable mandating digital skill levels. So it's always been something, so far in history where leaders feel like, well, I don't really want to tell people how good they have to be at technology. I just want them to make that decision on their own, or we'll just see how it comes out, as opposed to mandating that, hey, for this position, here is the level of capability we need you to have with digital tools, and tying that right into a job description. Sure, we say in job description things like, oh, you have to be able to use Word and PowerPoint and Excel, right? But that's basic. We don't go on and say you have to be a top-notch power user with this tool, this tool, this tool. All right, the third thing we see, people are starting to suffer from a bit of fatigue and burnout on learning digital. And I have sensitivity to this. I mean, right now, I am struggling every single week to keep up on what's going on with AI. And then this week, I added the Vision Pro to it. So I got my Vision Pro from Apple, so I spent a lot of time this weekend learning how to use the Vision Pro. Well, it's a whole new interface, it's a whole new set of working. Yes, it's spatial computing, it's cool. I'll skip explaining all to you what it's like using the Vision Pro. My point is, I spend hours and hours every week having to learn new technology. So I understand number 3, right? Just the fatigue that can come from constantly having to learn something new. So I get it. And then the 4th bullet point is just people have a different level of drive, right? To actually care about learning things. Every day I see this around the new AI tools that are coming out. There are some people, and I mean all walks of life, all different job types, that are all over it. They're reading all the news, they're trying out all the new AI tools, they are building their own AI toolbox. I've talked to more and more people, by the way, that are paying for AI subscriptions on their own, outside of the organization, because the organization doesn't have a plan to pay the $20 a month for them to have the paid version of ChatGPT, for example. Right? So more and more people are paying on their own to do that. That's one kind of person. But there are other people that they just don't have the drive. Like, they will learn the very basics they have to learn in digital skills to keep their job. That's it. They're not going to learn any more. They're just not wired to be people who want to go self-learn everything they can about technology. So that's problem 3, is just the motivation factor. So we have a big digital skills gap that is now growing. We have no great way to educate people, right? We're using old models for education. And then we really don't have a way to inspire or motivate people very well to want to close that digital skills gap. So there we go. There's the 3 problems. So let's talk about the solution, because that's really why we're here for an update, is to talk about something new. And I want to walk you through a model that we have for how to build a digital skills program. First of all, again, just on another survey, this one by PricewaterhouseCoopers, I just want to read a few of the important points from this one. They concluded a high digital IQ correlates with revenue growth and increased profit margin. Maybe that's not a surprise to you, but again, if you look collectively at your team members, and we look at the vast gap right now of digital skills they're missing, and then you say, well, wait a minute, digital IQ correlates directly to revenue growth and profit. That should show you why we call it a tax. It's a tax on your organization. And then down here, I thought this was interesting. Executives who have established themselves as digital leaders have adopted a learning mindset, always learning and evolving. Within the landscape of digital transformation, changes occur too fast for any staff member to get comfortable with their skill set. Certainly true today, again, with the speed of AI tools coming out, right? You can't get comfortable. Like, people cannot get comfortable. Well, I know everything I need to know. You're going to have to constantly be learning new technology from now on, right? Businesses must step up their educational game and equip their staff with the tools to succeed. They're not talking about more technology tools here. They're talking about the tools in which you need to grow your digital skills. All right. Now that we've got this much out of the way, and I'm going to go into the solution, a couple things. We're using Zoom Webinar. If you want to chat something to everybody, feel free to jump into the webinar chat, and you can go ahead and make any comments that you want anybody else to see. Like if you have a story that you want everybody to know, or you've got a good idea of something you're doing at your organization, throw it in chat. If you have a question for me, you can just throw it into the question and answer. I have both of them on the screen right now, so I'll be able to see anything that you put in there. And again, I encourage you, right, if you have something for everybody, throw it in chat. If you got a question for me, throw it in the Q&A and I'll answer your question. Because we're going to now talk about the solution to all of this. All right, I'm going to slow down because I want to make sure that you understand the steps and understand why these steps are important. And I want you to think about this as a program. This is not just, hey, we just do 3 or 4 things differently. This needs to be thought of as, we're going to turn this into a program or a project. Then we're going to bundle up this set of things I'm getting ready to tell you about. And then we're going to measure the success of it. We're going to make sure we have owners for it. But I highly urge you to think of the answer to the 3 problems that I've already talked to you about to be, we're going to rebuild a 2.0 program for how we do digital skills that's going to be dramatically better than our 1.0 program right now. Yeah, John, J-Dub, yes, I think that's an interesting way to look at a digital centaur, right? IQ, EQ, and then the digital IQ equals a digital centaur. So I like it so much, we may just copy that one and take it. So good comment. All right, step number 1 in the program. We've got to have new hiring models and good job descriptions. All right, so when I say that, how we interview people, the questions that we ask, what we might even test, and then the job descriptions themselves need to change. Let me give you some examples. In job descriptions where we've often, talked about the basics, again, you're like, you need to know how to use Microsoft Teams, or you need to know how to use PowerPoint or Excel. Those things are pretty basic. I mean, almost everybody's got those now. That should be pretty well understood. I think we have to put more in the job descriptions about being a fast learner, being very adaptable to learning new technologies. Right? I think these types of statements need to go in job descriptions so that these are things that are reviewed when we're doing interviews with people. I think it's something that we want to be able to quote unquote test for, to really understand that this person's got the proclivity to constantly evolve. All right? So let's see, I just want to answer the question. As a technology trainer, what are the most effective things I can learn and teach back to my organization to help them effectively embrace this changing environment? Currently expecting the digital burnout you expressed. Yes, I think that digital burnout is probably going to become more and more of a problem over time. I think I'm going to talk a little bit about what it takes to get people to embrace. One of the things we try to do is move from change, right, change management, to the concept of inspired evolution. So how do you inspire people to want to evolve as opposed to asking them to just change? I think that's going to be a massive difference. Is we have to quit looking at 1980s change management philosophy of who moved my cheese, right, and just trying to force people or explain to people all the reasons behind why they have to change. I think what we have to do is inspire people to evolve, because I don't think the change ever stops. It isn't just, hey, there's change and then things settle, and then there's change and things settle. I think when it comes to digital skills, it's going to be a constant evolution for a while. And so I think developing the skills to be able to inspire people to evolve is going to be what is really critical as a technology trainer, is to really look at this at a big picture. All right. Let's go to the second one. The second thing that you want to do is do 90-day onboarding programs for every position. So a lot of people don't do any onboarding programs. Some people only do 90-day or 100-day onboarding programs for executive level. What we want to see is a 90-day onboarding program for every single position. And in that onboarding program, there's a calendar of events over the 90 days. And that calendar of events is dealing with both technology achievements we want to see people make, but also human achievements, right? Relational achievements. So we want to script that 90 days. And what we want to say is, hey, at the end of 90 days, we're going to meet with you. Maybe it's HR, right? Or it's going to be your leader who's going to meet with you at the end of the 90 days, and we're going to ask a series of questions. And some of these questions are going to be dealing with technology. Do you know how to do this? Have you used this tool? How far have you achieved on this? Right? So we're going to go through a technology checklist just to see, hey, in the first 90 days, did you reach a level that we would want you to reach for that position? And then the second thing we're going to do is ask you some relational questions. Have you met with this person? Right? Who did you have lunch with in the last 90 days? Right? What relationships did you build in this department, this department, this department? So in other words, you could think about this as a 90-day humology script, if you want to think about it that way. If we were to do this, we would help people jumpstart their first 90 days in so much of a better way. And the other thing that we'd be able to see is when we did the interview at the end of 90 days, we would be able to see, is this person stronger with the relational side of what they did, or are they stronger with the technology side of what they did? But if there's a problem on the technology side, we would know it within 90 days because they would not be able to grasp and do the education programs that we're offering to them. So anyway, that's step two, right? After our hiring model is we need to build a 90-day onboarding plan for everybody. Now, if you're in HR and you're saying to me now, oh my gosh, this is horrible, I can't imagine writing a 90-day onboarding plan for every single team member. Hey, that's what AI is for. This is why you would train a GPT, right? Or train a synthetic expert, that all you have to do is give it a few of the parameters of the 90-day plan you want, and it would write the whole 90-day plan for you. All right, that's step 2 in the program. All right, step 3. We got to have new models for education. So as I mentioned, that was problem number 2. Right? The way that we have been educating people just hasn't been tremendously effective. And so I would suggest we move to a model for education that integrates things like microlearning, right? Short form videos, 5-minute videos, but a series of 5-minute videos that teach people what they need to know about our use of technology specifically. Right? I love the concept of microlearning, where it's small bites of learning as opposed to an all-day or half-a-day educational program where, the retention on that is 10% at best. People are tuning out after 30 minutes, right? We're in a world today where people are used to watching short-form video, right, to learn something or to read or listening to a podcast. So let's make our education more micro-learning focused. Skills coaching, right? I love the idea of mentoring, right, or coaching, where the new version of that is, sometimes what we call reverse mentoring, right? But matching a young person coming into the organization with an older person, and the older person is able to coach on the specific technology there. The younger person is able to coach the older person on new types of technology. But I love this cross-coaching methodology of matching young people with somebody who's been at the organization for a long time as a way to mentor them or coach them on using the new technology. And then the other thing we've got to watch for is AI tools, right? AI agents. AI agents are one of the hottest things that Sam Altman right now at ChatGPT says he believes he will be focusing on. AIs that can go out and do a task for you. So in other words, an AI agent that is a trainer for every piece of important software in an organization. So when you need to know how to do anything, you just ask the AI agent, how do I do this? How do I do this? Show me how to do this. Train me on how to do this. And the AI agent can train you on how to do that instantly. So again, we've got to have some new models for how we are educating. All right, let's go to 4. Right? Clear expectations on the minimum requirements. Right? And then on the other side of minimum requirements, the vision for what excellence would mean. I find that a lot of people who are onboarded, right, or hired into organizations, I don't care what level, a discussion that doesn't seem to be happening is, hey, here is a list of the technology tools that you're going to need to be able to be good at, right? And getting people to understand, look, in your position, I don't care whether you're the new CEO, right, or whether you're a project manager that's just coming in, a much clearer expectation of here's a list of tools that you need to know how to use. And of this list, these 5 tools you need to be excellent at. And setting that expectation, which again, by the way, tie that with our 90-day onboarding. You can check where they are today when you hire them, and you can check in 90 days and see how much progress they've made. And again, you would know early if there's an issue, because they are not getting up to speed quick enough to meet the expectations that you have. But I want to go past just basic expectations to, hey, this is what it means to be a digital centaur, right? This is what it means to have a vision of excellence for what you're doing with technology. This is the basic bar, but this is what the outstanding bar is. So that's the next step in a program, is to figure out who owns this. Does HR own this? Does each of the business unit or departmental, the VPs, do they own this? But we got to have some ownership of who is going to hold people accountable, who's setting the expectations, who's going to hold them accountable, right? And then who's also going to set that high bar of here's what it would mean to be a centaur. You might have noticed in chat that Pamela Kahn has chatted a couple things in. Just, so you know, Pamela was actually testing some of these things out 4 years ago. So Pamela, you can chat in if you want, but just I'll give you a shout out because she was working on with her HR person a belt system, right? Like martial arts, right? A white belt, a brown belt, a black belt. So she was testing out a system that assigned a belt system to different positions so that you would know what it means to be a brown belt with technology in your position or what it means to be a black belt. And so she was working on what does that incentive system look like, right? What does it look like to set some expectations? She just happened to use that martial art metaphor. But, I just wanted to make sure I told you. Like, there are people who have been testing things out like this. I think it's just time to make this mainstream. All right, number 5, the incentives. People are motivated in many cases by what is the incentive system. Now, that incentive system could be money. It could be I get paid more if, in Pamela's case, I'm a black belt instead of a brown belt, right? So it could be money, but it could be other things as well, right? I mean, sometimes incentives are recognition, right? There are other things that people could be incentivized by. I will say, though, money is the most powerful and direct incentive. We have a job position. If you are average with technology, you get paid X. If you are outstanding with the technology, you get paid Y. Here's what the expectation levels are, because we've got those with number 4, right? If you will achieve the higher level, the digital centaur level, you get paid 10% more, right? Or 20% more. Now, organizations shouldn't be worried about this. This is not a net loss. In other words, you're just writing bigger checks, right? You're getting value back for this. Yes, you're paying an incentive, but the return on investment of that incentive is usually extremely high. So we've got to come up with a different set of incentives for people to be able to get them to want to have a higher digital IQ. All right, upskilling and reskilling current team members. A lot of what I've been talking about up here has been new people coming into the organization. There are 2 reasons why number 6 is important. One is just everyone who is in current jobs is usually getting new pieces of technology all the time. And so we've got to have a much better model than just we install a new piece of software, we do 1 day of training, right, or a few sessions of training, and then we just turn people loose and think we've upskilled them. Right? We've got to have a much better model than that. Then we have the second reason is because of AI displacing parts of people's jobs. I don't mean displacing full jobs, just parts of people's jobs. But when you displace 25% of somebody's job, and then they're going to go do something different than they did before, oftentimes the best case all around is for us to upskill or reskill that person in something else. And so this is, when people ask me questions like, hey, aren't a whole bunch of people going to lose their jobs because of AI? Look, if you listen to any economists, we're at a tight job market. That's not going anywhere. It's hard to find people. We're not going to be trying to get rid of people. But when we do use AI to take away 25% of a job or 50% of a job, what we're going to want to do is upskill that person to find more valuable things for them to do. Now, sometimes the more valuable thing for them to do are human-oriented tasks, right? But in other cases, it's upskilling them on technology to allow them to use technology to be a more powerful contributor than they are today. So that's got to be number 6 in the program, is we have to be very purposeful, right, about what do we do with our current organizations. All right. So Martha, when you say effective on the topic of digital skills, to clarify, you're referring to what you said above, right? Do I think the resources like LinkedIn Learning, et cetera, are effective for things like microlearning? We're just starting. All right, so we have a lot of experience with LinkedIn Learning. I think LinkedIn Learning has a lot of good content on it. I will go and learn things from LinkedIn Learning. And is it microlearning? It's not really microlearning because usually the sessions are longer. However, when I use LinkedIn Learning, I just do it with as much time as I have. In other words, I might listen to 10 minutes of something in one session or 2 sessions and then come back and listen to sessions later. So I make LinkedIn Learning microlearning. So from that standpoint, as long as we give people the freedom to be able to do it 5 or 10 minutes at a time, right? Then yes, it can be micro-learning. There's a lot of good education inside of a LinkedIn Learning platform. My issue is when people license LinkedIn Learning and then they don't set expectations, right? They don't set any expectations as far as, well, what are the courses that you should be studying for this job? When we provide no roadmap, then I think that's a problem. So if I'm going to have LinkedIn Learning, I'm going to have a roadmap for each position of what are the courses. And then as new courses get added, I'm going to advertise out to our whole team or to the right people, hey, look, here are some new courses in LinkedIn Learning that you could be taking. So I just see a big gap between what LinkedIn Learning could be and how we generally use it, because no one is really facilitating, telling our team members, hey, here are some great resources in LinkedIn Learning, we'd like you to take them, or doing the follow-up to say, did you actually take that program, right? So again, this clear expectation is a bit of an issue. All right, number 7, the last thing in the Digital IQ program that's important is analysis. So I mentioned that there is a tax, right? There's a tax on the organization when you've got, let's just say, $10 million of technology, you're paying all kinds of licenses, and then people are not using all the technology effectively. So there is a number of what that tax is costing you. And so the last thing I would say is we need to do a much better job of analysis as far as what that gap is, what is that number, right? What is that tax that we're paying? And then also assessing our team's ability to be able to actually evolve and use these things. All right, I know I went through that fairly quickly. I just wanted to share, if it's helpful to you at all, Trent is pushing into chat right now this address. If you go to that webpage, it has everything that I just said, the steps, but it's got some other information also, just so that you've got all the information on the skills program all in one place. We would generally say you've got to assess, you've got to first understand what do you got with that tax? Like how much are you paying with that digital skills gap tax? What is that number every month that you are hemorrhaging? And then why? Like you got to do that assessment, right? That's kind of the assess and the analyze. Then the architect and the, is, all right, how do we do the 7 steps? How do we architect a new program? And then how do we get the whole company to adopt the program, right? Those are the steps, right, that we've kind of talked about so far, but all of this is at this page if you just want to go to that page on our website. All right, so let's talk about assessing. I am very certain that all of you at some point in your career have taken a personality profile. So whether that's a Myers-Briggs or Colors or DISC, right? There's a lot of them. But my guess is everyone's taken, one of those in your life. And those are assessments that help you with personality type or sometimes just kind of your business style type. Well, we've been working on at FPOV more of a digital execution rating, right? So how can we measure what the proclivity of a team is to actually adopt new technology and to evolve? And so the way we do this is we ask about 50 questions. And then there are 3 things that we get out of the 50 questions. So one of them is we look at the people's ability as far as their adoption, right? So some of the questions address which category might somebody be in, right? A visionary, an embracer, an acceptor, a skeptic, or preserver when it comes to new technology. Now, you see here, this one, we're using a little bit of a heat map, right, to be able to see. In this case, we've got a higher level of people who are embracers. You can't probably see all the colors, but we've got people that are in the visionaries, and we've got a few that are down here in the skeptics, right? But adoption style is the first thing we want to see. Is if we look at an organization, let me say it this way, if you had 1,000 people, you can look across 1,000 people and you can see a heat map of what the adoption style is. We could also do it just for a department, right? We can slice the numbers any way we want once we've actually done the assessment. So that's the first thing we want to understand is adoption style. The second thing that we want to understand is behavior style. So when it comes to new digital tools, what is the behavior style? So if we look here, you've got people that are directing, right? These are the people like me, right? That like to give the orders, tell people what to do, tell everybody just get in line, just follow me, come on, let's go fast, right? We've got that behavior style. We got the connectors. They're more people oriented. They're more, hey, we got to get everybody in the same page. Hey, we all got to do this together, right? You got your connectors. You have the people who are the harmonizing, right? Well, we just want everybody to get along, right? We want everybody to get along. We want everybody to be on the same page, right? And then you got the strategizers. They want the map. Give me a map. Tell me the 10 steps to do, right? I need to see the strategy. So we can also then glean behavior style of a group, and then we can plot that. And then that tells us a little bit about where you might be with executing. So for instance, the way that this heat map is scored out, it tells us that you have an awful lot of people that are not going to be fast movers with digital. You've got a lot of people that want a bunch of instructions, and a lot of people that just want everybody to get along and everybody's got to feel good, right, before you move, as opposed to the people that, hey, let's go, right, we got an outcome, let's get the outcome done, let's move with haste, right, or the people that say, hey, we got to get everybody together, we all got to do this, let's go, right, let's form the team, right, be much more relational. So behavior style is the third thing that we can get out of this. The fourth thing we can get out of this is culture. So we can actually map out the overall culture and how strong is the culture at adapting when it comes to digital execution. So I just wanted you to understand that when it comes to assessing, like we're actually trying to develop good ways to be able to look at a whole organization and then share with the leadership team. Here is the proclivity of your team, or break it down into subgroups of your team, so that you can see maybe why we have the skills gap, right? What's causing it? Maybe we know now what the tax is, but now we can actually do some assessment and show you why. Why do you have the situation that you have today? So I just wanted you to understand that there are starting to be, I think, new ways to look at an organization to figure that out. All right, let's start wrapping up, right, with some big picture ideas on this. One of the things when I step back and I look at how an organization can improve, what I notice is you can keep spending a lot of money on technology. You can keep writing some big checks for new platforms. But the cost to do the program that we outlined is very low compared to just continuing to buy new versions of software or more and more powerful versions that less and less people are using. And so that's something that I'd like you to consider, is you could put a program in place like this. You could start analyzing that digital skills gap. Most of what we're describing is just internal labor. It's not writing checks to anybody else. So the return on investment of building a digital skills program is high. And I'm going to say it again, in an AI era, if you truly want to fully exploit the power that AI is going to bring to create the hybrid mind and move from that outboard mind to the hybrid mind concept, you really got to start looking at, hey, we've got to get a program like this in place because the cost to do this is pretty low compared to what we will get. If you just think about that tax, and what happens if that tax today is 50%, right? 50% of what your people could be doing with your technology, they actually are. Right? If you could reduce that tax to 30% instead of 50%, the cost difference, right? The ROI on doing something like that is huge. And I'm wondering when leaders are going to wake up to this. When leaders say, hey, you know what? We keep buying more and more technology, but our return on the technology is lowering because we got less and less people that are exploiting it. Again, back to the easy examples of something like Power BI or Power Automate that Microsoft provides, right? Or any of the new AI tools that are out there. So just think about the return on investment, right? That can be very different. So when I mentioned that, right, about just keep buying more and more technology, one of the things I find very interesting, and I've seen this for decades now, people that are looking at upgrading a core system, right? They have a big core, whatever their core system is, their ERP or whatever their big main core system is, depending on what business they're in. They'll talk about upgrading it, right? Oh, we want to move to a new vendor, right? Or we want to upgrade it and add a bunch of new functionality to this thing. And a lot of times I'll look at the amount of money and the amount of interruption to the organization. And I'll think, okay, well, here's the financial impact of that, right? It's going to cost you X amount of money to do the new license. You got to do the implementation. It's going to distract people from their jobs for a long time, right? And then I ask myself, what percentage of their workforce is actually going to leverage the new tools they buy? And then this is where the math to me is something we have to get more serious at looking at. A lot of times the digital tools we see clients running on, yeah, they're only 70 or 80% as good as what a new tool would be, but their people can use that tool at 80%, let's say. If they implement new tools and then people only use the new tools at 40 to 50% capability, then it doesn't make any financial sense to do the upgrade, right? There is really a law of diminishing returns. I keep putting in more and more new technology, but my people are adopting it at a lower and lower percentage. So an interesting present day, right, case study around this is the new Microsoft Copilot. So you have the Copilot license that now anybody can license the O365 Copilot. And so they can use it for Teams, Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, Excel. I've got one, I use it. It does a lot of interesting things. Like everything Microsoft is generation 1, it's going to get a lot better. But the interesting thing is, if you say their maximum price is $30 a month, right? So it's $30 a month. What we see more and more clients doing is that they're getting 50 licenses when they have 500 people, and they're only giving out the 50 licenses to people who agree to use the tool, learn the tool, and they're holding them accountable, or they will turn those licenses off. Now, this is one of the first times I've seen it at this scale, where people are not just going out and getting 500 of these licenses, even though Copilot is an extremely interesting tool, right? High efficiency for people who use it well. What too many people already found out, you could buy 100 of those licenses and hand them out to random people. 50% of your people will not use it. They just won't use it. They will never click on the icon and even use it right now. Of the 50 who do, 30 of them will only use it in 1 or 2 applications, and that's it. And then 20 of them will use Copilot efficiently across the whole suite. If you sit back and do the math on that, and that the 20% and even maybe that next 30%, their efficiency has to carry the other 50% of people who don't use it, it doesn't work. Financially, you're not winning. And that is an interesting use case right now, that's what's happened with Copilot. And thankfully, I've seen a number of clients who they're getting a handful of licenses and they're handing them out, a few at a time, because they want to be assured that for $30 a month, people are actually using the license in a good way. And I think this is something we might see more and more, because again, you've got to understand this law of IT investment of, okay, you're going to spend a lot of money for a new tool. What do you think the adoption rate's going to be? If it's going to be too low, it's not worth doing the upgrade. Or you have to have a program to assure that you're going to get 80% usage, right? Or higher. All right. So what are you going to get, right? Let's start winding this up. If you do a program to improve digital skills, you get very serious about it. You match up your HR person, your learning and development person with your CEO and your CIO, right? You put the team together and you commit to, hey, we're going to double the amount of digital IQ we've got in our organization. All right, let's go through the results that you're going to see. The first is just co-working with AI, right? The power that you will be able to gain from people being better at co-working with AI tools will be unbelievable. So that's the first thing that you want to get today, because that's laying right there for you to go get, is a bunch of AI tools with a lot of power, right? That if you get people educated on those tools and keep them educated, forget everything else you've ever done with technology, you're going to add a lot of power. So that's the first thing you're going to get with higher digital IQ. The next thing you're going to get is more automation. So people having an ability to do low code, no code automations on their own. And so obviously anytime somebody can automate something, you're going to create efficiency. And so that's a real positive. Innovation growth. So the better people are able to use technology tools, the more innovative they can be. For example, as you know, most of you who know me know that a lot of these graphics I created, and I create with Midjourney or DALL-E 3. There's no way I could create a picture like this angel. I think this is a pretty picture. I really like it. I love the metaphor of it. I never could have created something like that on my own before, but now with the new AI tools, I can. So by growing my digital IQ, I'm able to be more innovative with what I do. I'm able to even set this slide up so when I stand here, these angel wings are coming out of me. And don't think that that happened by mistake, right? That's innovation with how you stand on top of your slides. I hope you're impressed by that. You're supposed to catch these little details when I'm talking. All right, better decisions, right? A digital IQ, whether it's because of your hybrid intelligence, right? Better decisions is something that people should get, but also if you understand how to use data better. So if you become more of a citizen data scientist, then you'll be able to make better decisions. All right, customer digital halo. The more your sales team, your support team, your customer support team has higher digital IQ, the better they'll be able to manage the customer journey. And that will help you earn a digital halo from the customers. All right. Hey, would somebody kick Aaron Matlock off the update? Can you just take Aaron off? I'm kidding. You don't have to take him off. But if you could erase his not impressed chat, right? Or I don't know, maybe we make him pay for the next update. I don't know. I mean, since the free update didn't get him there. But how could he not be impressed with my digital angel wings? I ask you. All right. Just be careful, Aaron. Maybe we'll make you listen to 3 or 4 of these updates all at once instead of banning you. All right. So financial improvements, right? Financial improvements are something that you get, of course, because people are more efficient with what they can do. They can get them more done faster. Happier team members. The higher digital IQ people get, first of all, they are thankful to you. In a lot of cases, they're more loyal if you have helped them to dramatically improve their digital IQ. If they feel like they got a better digital IQ from your organization than anywhere else, right, that just makes people happier with you, which helps with the retention. And then along with that is just attracting more A players. When you are interviewing people, and you can talk to people about the 90-day onboarding program and you show them that onboarding program, when you show people the ability you have to raise their digital IQ, that is going to be attractive to the A players. Now, it might run off some C players, okay? It might run them off, and that's okay, right? In most cases, we should run off the C players. That's a bit of that 90-day holding people accountable, right? While you interview at the end of the 90-day to see how well they've done at adapting to your technology, right? Is because all of this is about making sure that you have the right people, right, on board who can constantly evolve with their digital IQ. Thank you, Omar. Omar, you will absolutely get an invitation to the next one, all right? All right, so I love this quote. I always loved the Matrix movies. I always loved the wisdom of Morpheus. I have a bunch of quotes from Morpheus, but I always loved this one, right? You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are inured, right? So hopelessly inured, so hopelessly dependent on the system that they will fight to protect it. Now, I know what Morpheus was talking about was in Matrix, the system that people were connected to that created the fantasy world. But I looked at this quote more as people are so inured with the current way that they do things or their current level of skills that they're hopelessly dependent on whatever that level of skills are. And they'll fight to protect their current level of skills instead of wanting to evolve or wanting to grow. And I think when I say that we don't believe so much in change management, we believe in inspired evolution. This is what I think it takes to get people to see, well, I've been at the same level with Excel forever. Well, hey, let's get you up to a higher level with Excel, but let's move you on to Power BI, right? Or the people who, I've never used AI, I don't want to use AI ever, right? How do we get those people to say, yeah, I'd like to have that hybrid mind, okay? It's an important thing, is for people to be inspired and to understand the concept of, hey, I already have an outboard mind, right? But now it's time to move to an outboard and hybrid mind, right? So I just think it's important for us to be able to inspire people to let go of where they are, to continue to grow, and so that they don't plateau. All right, the next update, just so you know, March 26th, Hart is going to be doing a really interesting update on looking at digital transformation by the analytics, right, by the numbers. Hart is very good at this. He's got some really interesting analytics to show about how an organization can see what digital transformation is doing, what the results are, where the weak spots are. Hey, let's do some projections and do predictive analysis of, hey, if we made different investments and different moves, what would happen? We really find that organizations aren't doing enough financial analysis these days around what technology is doing and can be doing. And that's what Hart will be showing you on the 26th. I think you would really be interested if you just come and look at, hey, what are some of the new analytics that we could add to a dashboard so we even know what digital transformation is doing for us? I think you'll find it to be pretty helpful. All right, John, what advice can you offer board of directors as it relates to our responsibility with oversight in the area of developing digital IQ improvement? Well, John, as you know, I love working with boards. I think from a board level, I think it's really important that you ask leaders the right questions. I mean, first of all, would you please go study the digital gap and show us what that tax is? Just by asking that question, it's going to force the leadership team to have to address. They're going to have to at least do a survey, ask some people to try to define what the gap is. And I think that's the first thing. I'm just going to ask the question from a board level. Would you please analyze what the digital skills tax is that we're paying, and come back and do a presentation for us, it doesn't have to be a long one, of how much money are we hemorrhaging because our people just can't use the tools that we already have. That's the first question I'm going to ask as a board member. Once I have that number, then the second question I'm going to ask is, how do we lower the tax? So what is it that you can do as the leader to be able to lower what it's costing us to not be able, right, to use all the tools that we have? Or should we have less tools? I mean, if we can't get our people's ability up to speed to use all the things we're licensing, well, then let's turn off the licenses and quit paying for them. But let's do one or the other. But I think those are the two big questions, right? Can you please analyze for me what is the tax? And then tell me what you're going to do to lower that tax. All right. The other thing that I would share with you is, starting today, we're opening up the registration for the May think tank. And remember, the May think tank is all on risk. Our November think tank is all on high beam, right? Thinking about where things are going to go into the future from an opportunity standpoint. But the May think tank is all around security and risk. And so the registration is open for that. The link is also in your chat if you want to go take a look at it. But just two different things that Hart Brown is going to be doing. He'll do the next update, and Hart runs this think tank every May. If you've never attended it, I'd encourage you to attend it, or at least have your CISO, right, or your Chief Risk Officer make sure that they attend this. All right. As always, thank you for attending the update. We always record these. We also do a wrap-up afterwards, and so if you want somebody to hear this that didn't get to hear it, there's always an ability to catch up later. Hey, we look forward to seeing you in March.